next tutorial, we've already worked with audio for a little bit, but I want to work with audio again now, because some other just quick little tricks to do with audio. Um, when you work with sound and you have, let's put some clips on the timeline here, and have some clips there, and I'll just work with this one clip. Remember you have so many different clip views you can to work with here. Make sure you're always checking your clip appearance when you're working with sound. That's right here on the bottom right. Right now I have selected, where I can see a little bit of the audio. I mean, if I go to the right here, all I'm seeing is video, and now I'm seeing nothing but the text. But let's go to the left, and notice I'm seeing more of the waveforms and less of the video. And right there, the last one, I don't see any video at all. So if I'm working with audio, I'm really not looking at the picture as much. I'm looking more at the waveforms. Notice you can just see clip names. You can see clip names or angles, clip rolls. You can adjust your clip appearance. But right now, I want to make sure that I can see the waveforms really good. So I hear the audio there, and I saw my clip appearance. I increased the size how I want it, and also I can drag it to the right to really get in there, especially when you're trimming something, especially in audio. You really want to zoom in on your timeline here. Let's mark an I. Say if there's a certain part here, I see my waveforms, I'm going to hit I. And I know that section. So right there, I can make a certain section of what adjustments I want to make. And notice I have a bar right here in the middle. I'm at 0 decibels. I can raise it to make it louder. I went up to 12 decibels. Or I can make it lower in the negatives because they're speaking too loud. That it really helps. And then if I want to deselect this, I just hold Command Shift and the letter A, and notice it's deselected. But look what it did. It actually made some keyframes when I did that, because notice in the corners here of my 4 points, that's where the audio was level at 0 decibels. But remember, I lowered it a little bit to 6 decibels. So I deselected it. Notice from where I lowered it from those 2 points, it made 2 more keyframes for me on the timeline. So, I can, I created these keyframes in the last section, and I'm going to work in the same area here. And, I could lower this keyframe some more. I want this, I can drag this out here, and I want that keyframe to really, dissolve for me. I'll go right over here, and I'm happy with that there. If I need to add another keyframe, it's very simple. All I have to do is press Option and click on that bar, and notice a new keyframe appears. And I'm just going to drag that up. And so notice I'm in the beginning of my keyframe, my volume's dissolving. Then I'm raising it up, and then I'm dissolving it back down again. To delete a keyframe, say if I didn't want that keyframe at all, I'll just hit delete, or sometimes if that doesn't work, you just hit Control click, and there it is, delete keyframe, and that's gone, and I'm back down to where I was. So it's very simple to animate some keyframes. And if I really wanted to work with if I selected my keyframe, and remember I have my inspector up here, so let's hit audio, and notice right here I can jump around to the keyframes. So right here where my cursor and my inspector, volume and pan, I have that keyframe button. I'm going to hit that arrow to the right, and notice it's just jumping to the next keyframe there. And if I go to the left, it's going to jump to the keyframes back. And notice I can delete my keyframes by hitting the letter X here, or if I drag over here, I can also even add a keyframe by in the inspector button. There it is, add another keyframe. And also I can, if I'm on a keyframe, I can hit the X button, and that keyframe has been deleted. So there's a really lot you can do with a keyframe too. If I'm in my event library, notice I'm working my inspector here. If I have, I'll go down to where there's audio, this clip right here, and notice there's only video there. This clip is video. This clip has video and audio. So if I'm in the audio, um, and I can adjust some volume settings to this clip even before I bring it down to the timeline. And notice I lowered the volume into -16. Normally you go up to -12, but you can make some quick volume adjustments even before it's on the timeline. I can make some changes here. It's going to check those potential problems we discussed in class, where I need to analyze my audio, and if I need to fix anything, notice might be some background noise. I'll select that in the noise review. The loudness was a little too loud, and the levels were increased to match it, and notice it fixed those problems. So some of the stuff that we talked about in class, we can make those changes before it even happens on the timeline. Because look, this clip is in the event browser here, and I made those changes. So we talked about animating with the keyframes I already have here on the timeline, how we can change those. And notice look at my inspector. Notice here I'm on -6, and I'm on -6 to the next one. And then when I go to the fourth one, I'm back to 0 in my inspector. You see those numbers changing in the inspector right over here with my cursor, -6, and I go to the next one, it's 0 up there at the same time. So if you look also too, we told how to delete, we talked about how to add, but notice we saw there's an arrow up here, with my keyframes. I can reset this where it would delete all of the keyframes if I want to start over. If I made a bunch of mistakes here with the keyframes that I have here, if you don't want to delete each one, you could just reset the parameter, and you would start completely from scratch, which is probably easier sometimes than deleting all your keyframes and adjusting your audio. So obviously you work with keyframes, as we talked about in class, when we want to make things smoother. I mean, keyframes are smoother sometimes than just putting a dissolve. But how do we put those dissolves on there? How do we put an audio clip on? So I have audio here on my clip here, and notice I need to go to the corner of a clip, and notice where it says where I have those two arrows separating each other right here on my clip in the storyline, and it says fade audio in. So I'm going to click with my mouse and drag it all the way to the right, and look how it made that little curve of a fade. It made really nice. Those fade handles appeared. I can drag it to the right. Now if I was doing it at the end here, and I have those double arrows appearing, I would drag it to the left, and I would be fading out instead of in. So if I control click on one of these, I'm going to hit control and click on it. Notice I'm at the +3 decibels, but I can change the shape of my dissolve into a linear, an S curve, or a -3 decibel dissolve. Depending on the situation, that's how you're going to want your curve to be. Maybe I'm going to change it to an S curve. Over here in the beginning of my dissolve, I'll control click, and I want more of a linear dissolve in. Depending on what you're doing is how you're going to make your audio dissolves. And those are just some last minute audio changes that we didn't go over in the previous audio session.